All right, so part two of the debate between Spencer and Pinker. I'll just go ahead and give you up front my thoughts on it. Not only did Spencer lose the debate, but he ended up doing harm to Christian theism. He hurt the case for Christianity. It was a shameful display of capitulation in multiple areas. I thought it was pathetic. The more and more I watched it twice now, and I'm just like, this is sad. This is sad. Well, it was Justin Browley, the moderator, that was the first one to actually challenge Pinker. And it's not that Spencer never challenged Pinker. And it's not that Spencer wasn't competent and interesting. He was. It's just he wouldn't challenge Pinker with actual problems that he would have to face. That was left up to the moderator to do. Browley did a good job. He basically asked him, he said, you keep talking about progress, but the whole notion of progress evokes the idea that there's something, a standard outside of humanity that points towards an end goal that you would progress toward. Now, Pinker's response is what one would expect, right? He would say, well, you know, we find it inherently within us, which of course makes no sense. You could just challenge him on relativism immediately. You could just say, well, why is your version of humanism better than National Socialist versions? Why would you, how can you tell us that you would not have been defending them and their humanism at that time? And he would have said, he would have had to go to his arguments he had been used. Now, Browley couldn't do this, and Spencer apparently couldn't either. He would have had to have gone to arguments he had already used, and all they would have had to do is say, oh, well, the National Socialists defined it this way. Human flourishing was defined this way, because their assumptions were that the Aryan race was a root race, and that's human, quote unquote, flourishing. And we would, later in the debate, if I get around to a part 3, you'll see where his ultimate default position would have been. His ultimate default position would have been to say that we come from a common ancestry. I'll deal with that in the part 3 if I get to it, but I want to get on to the main course here, which I found pretty enlightening. So, Pinker is doing something very important to substantiate his arguments. And of course, Spencer doesn't bother dealing with it. What Pinker is trying to do is, and he's been doing it the entire debate, and he probably does it in his writings, even though I haven't read them, that would be my guess, is it's very important for him to group humanity into a herd. If humanity isn't brought into a herd, then it's very difficult for Pinker to substantiate his ethical norms. Because he has to base it on human flourishing. And the more you bring things into a herd mentality, the more you can bring about ethical action. Okay? And so he ends up saying, directly challenging Spencer and saying, you know, if you have to confess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, he says that you will end up creating a public health menace. Because some people will cause other people to go to hell with that understanding. And instead of, now what was Nick Spencer worried about? Nick Spencer was worried about that he was going to go back to the Crusades if he defended against this. That's what Pinker had in his back pocket. And what Spencer should have done immediately is say, you know, in the past, those who claimed to be Christians misinterpreted the Bible. Just like you're doing right now. Every person is responsible individually. Just because you need a herd ethic to pull off some absurd oughtness that won't exist even in a herd ethic. Just because you need that doesn't mean that Christianity teaches that, because it doesn't. But you know what he said instead? He basically agreed with him. Now, when I say he agreed with them, you'd have to watch it for yourself. I think he was just being too passive. I don't believe he really agreed with them. But it'd be fair to come to that conclusion. I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. If someone wanted to say, Travis, no, he did agree with him, and here's why, you could point out reasons like, yeah, he didn't bite back on that. How is that not beyond a loss in the debate? It's way beyond a loss. It is a shame. It's shameful. I don't know another way to put it. I'm not trying to be judgmental of Spencer here. I just was shocked. Anyway, so I guess I'll have to continue and contribute to my public health menace as I move along in life here. I have more to say about it. Hopefully I'll be able to... I have one other thing I wanted to say. It just isn't coming to mind right now. But, man, the more I listen to this debate, the more bad I realize Spencer had performed, unfortunately.